Good afternoon to all the students who have joined with us today at this fortnight program organized by Board of Studies Academic of ICAI for CA final course students appearing in November 2026 examinations. As you know, in this particular program, each day we cover one paper. So far, we have covered paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Today being the fifth session in this program, and we would be covering paper 5, indirect tax laws. The session would be taken by CA Vishal Poddar, the subject faculty, and by CA Shefali Jain, our BOS faculty. Shefali ma'am has already joined with us. So welcome Shefali ma'am to this session.
Thank you,
Students, as you are aware, as you would have already seen in our earlier session, today also in this particular paper, the faculties would be covering certain selective and important topics and aspects from this paper. Further, the faculties would also be taking the queries which you have already submitted to us, and the faculties will address your queries during this session. So we request all of you to please take a note of all these points and very important highlights which the faculties would be sharing with you. Please take a note of it. You will find them very helpful for your examination preparation. We also have one more request to make to all the students. As I tell you in each session, today also I would repeat, please do fill the feedback form at the link through which you have joined. At the same link, the feedback form is also given. So at the conclusion of the session, please do fill the form. It really helps us to understand your learning needs even better. So with this, I hand over the session to Shefali ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. And a very good afternoon to all the students to this session of paper 5, indirect tax laws. So as ma'am has already made you aware, that in this session, we are going to cover very, very important points for paper 5, indirect tax laws for the forthcoming November 26 examination. So all of you at this point of time must be preparing for the November examination, and we will be covering very significant points in this session. So I request all of you to be with us throughout the session, and I can assure you that after the session, you will definitely be getting some information, some knowledge, which will add to your score in the forthcoming examination. You have to be with us throughout the session, and you will keep getting some or the other information which is relevant for the examination. So be with us throughout the session. What are the key takeaways for today's session? One is important topics. So students are always interested or always want to know that what are the important topics for their examination. So we will be telling you those topics which you have to focus more, and you have to pay due attention to those topics. Then examination paper pattern. So by now, since 4 sessions have already been conducted, so all of you now have an idea that there is a slight change in the examination paper pattern in the MCQ division. MCQ portion, there is some change, and that change is also applicable to our paper 5. So that I will be covering in short, so that you are aware that yes, what those students who have joined us today only, so they will be knowing that what is that change in the examination paper pattern. It's very important that you should be knowing it beforehand so that you are prepared for it accordingly. Then the most important part of today's session is mastering the art of presentation of answers, because many of us prepare, but when it comes to answering or attempting the paper, sometimes we do not fulfill the expectation of the examiner. So in today's session, I will be telling you what you have to do and what you don't have to do. So that is very important, because we should be aware of the don'ts also, that we do not do that in the examination, and so that we don't end up losing the marks. So I would be showing you some ways of presenting the answers which are don'ts, which come under don'ts. That means they are not the best way of writing the answers, or they should not, those are the ways in which you should not answer the questions. So those also I will take, and then how you should present the answers, that also I will take. So that is very, very important segment of today's session. Please pay due attention to that. Then comes the time management in examination. I have received queries from the students beforehand, and many students are asking that they are not able to manage time in the examination. So that also we will be taking. And then significant amendments applicable for November 26 examination. Now, this is also a very important section. Why? Because many a times the question paper covers the questions which tests the latest amendments. So you should be updated with those amendments. I will also show you the link where these amendments are uploaded. And our faculty, CA Vishal Kodar sir, he will be taking the significant amendments. 1 or 2 I will also be taking during the session, because I also have to tell some important points regarding them, especially the baggage rules. You know that baggage rules have now been changed. From baggage rules 2016, now they have been substituted by baggage rules 2026. So you have to be aware of them while answering the baggage questions. Now you have to be even more attentive and be aware of the relevant amendments. Then next point is commonly committed errors. Now this section I will try to take as much as possible, because we can learn from others' mistakes. So instead of committing those mistakes ourselves, it's better to learn from others' mistakes, and that is what this particular section is all about. That I will be apprising you of some commonly committed errors by the students, which we have come across over the years through our experience. And I will be sharing it with you so that those mistakes you do not commit in your exam, and that will save your score. Then the last is the revision strategy. That is very important, because if you have prepared everything, but you are not able to revise it day before exam, then it becomes as good as not done. So revision strategy also has to be very, very strong. And at this point of time itself, you have to prepare your revision material so that day before exam, everything is set and you just have to revise. You just have to open those materials or those books, and you are revising from them. So that I will be apprising you in that revision strategy section. In fact, I will just take the names of few of the students who have given us the queries beforehand. And I want to assure all those students that their queries will be taken. I have received queries from Naga Lakshmi, Muskan, Ayan, Dilip, Gregory, Varsha, Dipesh, Lokesh, Madhu, Smriti, Purushottam, Namrata Chandak, then Shweta, Saksham, Anand, Neha. And queries have also been received from Mohammad Faizan, then Anshu, Dipesh, Kayal Vizi, then Deepti, M.A. Salman, Dheeraj, Tripti, Falguni, Dipesh, and Nandini Mundra. So all these students have already sent us the queries, and their queries I will be taking through the session. I can assure you that whatever queries you have asked, they will be answered during the course of the session. But yes, you have to bear with me. You have to be with me throughout the session so that your queries are answered. So without further delay, let us start the session. And the first point is, for any task, for anything which you are doing, you have to stay motivated. And it is all the more important in a journey of a CA student, because CA course requires perseverance. It requires a lot of patience, and you have to stay motivated throughout this journey. So we can stay motivated through our own willpower, plus others' inspirational stories also keep us motivated. So we feel that I'm not able to prepare this time because I was not well. I'm not financially that well off. I cannot afford the classes. Some students feel that they are not they are not able to retain the concepts well, or there can be n number of limitations which we feel with ourselves, and we feel that is why we are not able to qualify the exams. But I will tell you, I will share with you some stories where you will feel that these people, if they can do it, then we can also do it, because their stories are even more motivational or inspirational for us, because they were in some or the other way, they had some underprivileged. They were not having some privilege, but even after that, they were able to achieve it. They were able to clear the CA exams. Some of them attained the rank also, All India rank also. So let us see some of the cases or some of the examples which can be inspiration to all of us. First case is the case of K.N. Sujoy. Now, he failed twice before securing an AIR 1. In November 2010 examination, he cleared his CA final examination. And before that, in the previous two attempts, first attempt was in November 2009 and second attempt was in May 2010, but he could not succeed in that attempt. But yes, in the next attempt, it was very overwhelming that he attained. He cleared the exam and he secured AIR 1. So if he can do it, others can also do it. So he was a son of a farmer from Kuningal, Karnataka. And then he moved to Bangalore for his studies and he secured AIR 1. So after two unsuccessful attempts, if he can succeed in his third attempt and secure AIR 1, then it inspires all of us to be there and to be. Yes. So we all have to stay on that path. We all have to keep our patience. So failure is not the end of the road. If you have failed in some exam, it does not mean that now you cannot do it. It means that it is the turning point towards greater success. Now you're going to get a greater success. Only thing is that your determination should not be deterred. Another example is the example of CA Prema Jaikumar. Now she also secured AIR 1 in CA final 2012. And so she was the daughter of an auto rickshaw puller. She secured AIR 1 despite all her limitations, and hard work and determination can overcome any limitation. So success is not about privilege. It is about perseverance. You have to be patient. You have to keep going. You have to keep working towards your aim. Next is the case of CA J. Rajashekar Reddy. Now, he was India's first visually impaired chartered accountant. In 2013, he cleared his CA final examination. And when he can do it, why cannot we? Because everybody has some or the other problems in their life. But this examination is about overcoming those limitations and achieving your goal. So greatest limitation is not physical. It is the limits we place in our minds. We place some kind of a block in our mind that I will not be able to do it. We have to make our mind believe that I can do it. Success belongs to those who refuse to be defined by their limitations. Then the next case is, all of you must be aware of CA Tara Chand Agarwal. He did it at the age of 71. So many students who are not able to, who have taken numerous attempts in clearing CA final examinations. So they feel that one factor is the age, that we are getting older. So we are not able to clear our examination. But he did it at the age of 71. So age is never a barrier to learning and achieving dreams. Greater achievements are not limited by years, but powered by courage and persistence. So throughout this period, you have to maintain the lifestyle habits for better memory also, because CA course requires the retention of the concepts also. When you are appearing for examination, you require reproduction of the concepts which you have understood or you have gained throughout this period. You still have 2 months left for the examination, and during these 2 months, you can change everything. If at this point of time you feel you will not be able to do it, after 2 months, you can believe that, yes, I will be able to do it. Only thing is that you have to give this 2 months period entirely to your studies. No social media, no wastage of time on any of the distractful activities. Only your time has to be devoted towards studies. So you have to leave the entire world now and you have to focus on your studies. These 2 months should be only for your forthcoming examination. And I can assure you that you will be able to perform much better in the examination. So first of all, for better memory, you should have a sound sleep. You should take a balanced diet during this period so that you don't fall sick, and you are able to utilize the maximum time during this period and stay away from all kind of distractions. Something which demotivates you, don't see that, don't refer that. You should refer to only those things which motivate you. So some quotes, some motivational quotes you can put on your study table, and you have to read them on a daily basis. Once the best thing is to read a motivational quote once you get up in the morning. First thing when you start the study is to read some motivational quote. And one thing which all of you can do is, when you start your studies, on a daily basis, first sit for 2 minutes and visualize that what your life will be when you clear this examination, when you become a chartered accountant. That will motivate you. Something which is demotivating you, some people who are pulling you down, it can be anyone. Try to be away from them and try to leave those points. Just try to focus on yourself, on your studies, and believe that you can do it, because that CA degree, that CA qualification will change your life forever for better. So be motivated throughout this period. Now we'll start with our examination pattern. So indirect tax laws has two parts. Part 1 is goods and services tax, which carries 80 marks. And part 2 is customs and FTP, which carries 20 marks. So these are the two parts which you have to prepare. All of you know that. Now, know the paper pattern, because you can plan your score accordingly. So if you know the paper pattern for sure, that will help you, that will enhance your preparation, or that improves your preparation. Okay. So we know that there are two parts in the question paper. One is MCQ portion, one is descriptive portion. Quickly, I will take this because this all of you must be aware. In MCQ portion, the GST portion carries 26 marks and the customs portion, it carries 4 marks. So this is a compulsory portion, no choice, no options are given to you. Total, it carries 30 marks. And in these 30 marks, 26 is GST, 4 is customs and FTP. In descriptive portion overall carries 70 marks, out of which the first question is a compulsory 14 marks question. And out of remaining 5 questions, so overall there are 6 questions. Out of remaining 5 questions, students have to attempt only 4 questions. And in each of the optional questions, GST portion carries 10 marks and customs portion carries 4 marks. Now, one important or interesting point here is that in the compulsory question, there is no customs question. So in compulsory question, it will be only one single question carrying 14 marks, which tests you generally on the net GST liability payable in cash. Generally, this question carries this. So it is only based on the goods and services tax. Now we come to the change which is there in the paper pattern quickly. So in MCQ division, now you will be having 1 marks MCQs also. Earlier, there were only 2 markers. MCQ portion used to have only 2 marks MCQs, and out of 30 marks MCQ division, we used to have 15 2-marker questions. Now we will have 1 marks MCQs, 16 1 marks MCQs will be there, which makes the total to 16. And for 2 marks MCQs, there will be 7 MCQs. So 7 MCQs will carry 2 marks. That means they will have a weightage of 14 marks. So 1 markers will have a higher weightage, and you have to prepare for the examination accordingly, because number of MCQs now will increase, though the difficulty level will be in accordance with the marks which the question carries. But yes, number of questions, when it increases, you have to be faster in attempting the questions or answering the questions. So be very thorough with your provisions, your concepts, and attempt the mock test papers. Those mock test papers will give you an idea that how you have to manage time now, because there is a change in the MCQ paper pattern. So I would suggest all the students to appear for the mock test papers, both the mock test papers this time, and attempt them in exam-like conditions, so that you can understand that how you have to manage time in the examination even better with this change in the examination pattern. Now we come to the applicable provisions for November 2026 examination. Now please remember one very important point here, that under indirect tax laws, when you are attempting any question, this is the position of law based on which you have to answer. Why I am saying this, why this point is relevant? Because suppose there is a change in any of the provision. Now, and this provision has changed 2 or 3 times. So which position of law you have to take while answering the question in the examination? That is the position of law applicable on 30th April 2026. You have to answer your question based on Finance Act 2025, as well as the notifications and circulars which have become effective up to 30th April 2026. Your question should be answered based on the position of law latest position of law applicable on 30th April 2026. This is the date on which your answers should be based on. So cutoff date is 30th April 2026. Please bear this in your mind while answering the questions. You have to be very, very sure of this. This is somehow different from the other papers because there you have to take care of different amendments, but amendments which exist in different points of time. But in indirect tax laws, we stick to 30th April 2026 only. This is the date based on which you have to answer. Now, from concept to confidence, how can you gain concept and how can you understand the concept and you can gain confidence? So for that, we have provided you, Board of Studies has provided you study material, revision test papers. They are already available on the website, as well as you will be getting the hard copy very soon. Mock test papers, which will be conducted. I have already suggested, please attend those. Study material also, you will find that there are distinctive features in the study material. So we have given you the let us recapitulate section. We have given you the statutory provisions, first of all. So all the sections, all the rules are first given you in the bare form, and then their analysis is given to you so that you can, that is given in the very lucid and very students friendly manner. In a very simple manner, everything has been explained. Then examples are there, illustrations are there to help you understand the concept and build it for the examination. Then the most important section is the statutory update. Now for November 26, in customs also significant amendments are there. So I suggest all of you to go through the statutory update, particularly don't leave it for the exam. Once again, I am suggesting everybody don't leave statutory update. We'll try to cover some of the significant amendments today. Whatever will be left, that will be covered in the success at CA exam session, which will be held subsequently in the month of October. But yes, in the meantime, you should be thorough with the statutory update so that when the success at CA exam session occurs and whatever amendments which are left, they are covered, you are also ready with your queries that time. Then we have Saransh, which is the pictorial representation summary of all the concepts. Now this Saransh you can use for the revision purpose. I will tell you how. And last but not the least is the case scenario booklet for paper 5 indirect tax laws. That booklet has very, very good questions, very, very good MCQs based on the scenarios. They will not only help you in interpreting in understanding how to attempt the MCQ based case scenarios in the examination, but they will also help you in understanding the niche concepts or tricky areas of this particular subject, because those questions have very tricky MCQs and their explanation is also given to you. So that you can understand it from the explanation, but try to attempt it on your own. And then once you are not able to solve it, then go to the explanation. Now we come to the most important section or interesting section for all of you. You feel that what are the important topics for the indirect tax laws paper? So what are those important topics? For that, you have to see the section wise weightage in this paper. Now, in goods and services tax, the first part, it carries 80 marks. And in that, the most important section is section 1, that is the core or substantive provisions of GST. So if you see your study material from chapter 1 to chapter 7, all the chapters are most important chapters and they carry a weightage of 45 to 65%. So you can see almost 50% of your GST paper will be from section 1 or will be from chapter 1 to 7. So you can understand how important these first 7 chapters are. And that is why you should pay due attention to these chapters. Now it covers all the substantive provisions, that is the concept of supply, levy, then interstate supply, intrastate supply, supplies in territorial waters, charge, classification, exemption, place, time and value of supply, ITC, and last is computation of GST liability. Few students have asked that how to attempt that 14 marks question, what we should pay attention towards. That also I will try to cover during this session. Section 3 is the section, let me come to section 4 first. Now after section 1, the second important section is section 4. That has a weightage of 15 to 30%. And these are the enforcement provisions: demand and recovery, offences, penalties, advanced ruling, appeals and revisions, ethics. So many times students have this tendency that they pay due attention to module 1, module 2, but when it comes to module 3, they are already so tired of this, the studying and retaining the concepts. They tend to get, lethargic towards that section, or that section is not done in the same manner as the other sections are done. So I would request you, please base your preparation based on these sections. So due attention should be given to demand recovery offenses, advanced ruling appeals provisions, because they carry a very substantial weightage. Third important section is section 2, that is the procedural section. It covers all the procedures plus refunds and job work provisions. It covers the liability to pay in certain cases also. So this is what is covered in section 2. That is the third most important section. And last is your administrative provisions, inspection, surgeon, seizure, assessment, and miscellaneous provisions. So that covers the least weightage. But yes, it has a weightage of 0 to 5%. So after covering all the above portions, you should also pay attention to these topics. So I'm not saying to leave anything. When I say important topics, it does not mean you should leave the topics which have a lower weightage. But yes, your attention, your focus, and the time which you devote for studying the topics should be based on these section-wise weightages. Similar is the weightage for customs. In customs also, section 1 has the highest weightage, and you can see that almost 50% of the paper is from section 1, which carries a weightage of 40 to 65%, and it is from the initial chapters. The levy of custom duties, then types of custom duties, classification, and last but not the least is valuation. Valuation of import and export procedures is also covered in section 1, and you know that generally one question is there from valuation also. Second most important section covers the import-export procedures, covering baggage, goods imported by post, stores, then warehousing and refund, and the basic concepts relating to export promotion schemes. Now, all export promotion scheme related provisions will also come in section 2, and they also carry a due weightage. So some students have this misnomer in their mind that FTP carries a weightage of 5 marks. Some say it carries a weightage of 4 marks. One question is compulsory. No such fixed kind of thing is there. It has a weightage in section which get covered in section 2. So FTP is important, but you have to see the weightage accordingly. So FTP export promotion schemes are covered under section 2, and in the section 3, which has the weightage of 10 to 20%, basic concepts of FTP are covered, as well as the basic concepts of customs law are covered. So all of you who are who want to take advantage of this section-wise weightage, then or who want to study based on this, should go to the ICAI website, and that it is available there. So please go through it thoroughly and base your preparation based on this. At the time of revision also, it is very important. So please go through it thoroughly. Then section-wise, skill-wise weightage. Now, skill-wise weightage tells you that what type of skills will be tested. So application and analysis-based questions are the highest, carry the highest weightage, both in part 1 and part 2. It has a weightage of 45 to 75%. There is no evaluation and synthesis-based question in part 2 customs. It is only there in GST, and I told you this is the first compulsory question, which is an evaluation and synthesis-based question. So please prepare for that thoroughly. I will give you some tips also, which you have to keep in mind while attempting this question. And last is the comprehension and knowledge, that is the direct theory questions. So they have the least weightage, and in exam also, when if you see the past few papers, you will find that yes, it has a very less weightage in CA final paper 5 exam. Now comes the most important section, how to master the art of presentation of answers. So most of us know the concept, but we do not know how to present it in the exam. And that is where we get, we feel ourselves, we get depressed that many students come to us who say that I had prepared for 60 marks, I had attempted the paper well, but I am not able to score even 40. So they feel that they have not been awarded due marks, but many a times the situation is, or the problem is that they are not able to present it properly. They have not written the answers the way they should be. Now, when I say writing the answers properly, it does not mean that you have to quote the exact section, exact notification number, circular, or rule. One of the questions which is asked in the by you was this only, that should I write quote sections, rules, notification, circulars? I would say you can quote or you should quote. That gives an edge to your answer. But do not misquote them, and do not focus entirely on sections or rules. Focus on the provision first. So we always suggest that for this paper, you should focus on the provisions. You should focus that what is written in that section, what is written in that rule, instead of quoting that section. If I ask you that why this particular supply is taxable, then you instead of writing that particular notification or that it is exempt because of this notification, you should write that what that exemption entry says and how this particular supply satisfied that exemption entry. So don't quote that entry. No need to write the notification also. Even if you do not write notification number, you do not write entry number. What suffices is the exact provision which that notification or that entry provides. I'll give you some example to make it more clear. But before that, when you are presenting your answers, first of all, write the question, the answer to which you know the best, because that gives you a momentum and that creates an impression on the examiner also. So if your first question is the best answered question, then your examiner also has that impression that yes, this student knows the concepts and this is a good answer sheet. So he will start marking you accordingly. And answer on the applicable position of law. I'm once again revising this, stressing on this. This is a very important point. Answer on the basis of position of law, which exists on 30th April 2026. Please do not deter from that. This point is very, very important. Do not miss this point. Then your handwriting should be legible. You should underline all important points. You should box the key points or the definitions so that examiner is able to identify the important points from your answer sheet. So even if your writing is not very good, that will suffice. That is not a point that you should write very good handwriting. That will give you more marks. No, but it should be readable. And you should highlight important points so that even if the examiner is finding it a bit, clumsy, but then he is able to identify those important points because you have underlined them, you have put them in box. And supplement computations with clear explanatory note. This is the most important point. I will give you examples also to show this point. And write reason for each item's treatment, simply adding or subtracting without explanation. They can be considered as guesswork because you have not provided any reasoning. You have just added few items. You have subtracted some of the items from it. Though you might have arrived at the correct answer, but the examiner can feel that you have just it's a guesswork or you have copied it from somewhere. So that is not what is expected from you. You have to explain reason for every treatment, every computational item which you have taken in your answer. So I will give you examples. I already told you I will show you what is not to be done and what is to be done. So for this, we'll take an example from May 26 examination question only. We have taken an example. Fund Tours Limited, he is a registered dealer under Punjab and he has provided you the following details for the month of October. Now, it is not provided in the question that these are the outward supplies or are these the inward supplies. This is a mix of the items. Now we have to see that whether this is an outward supply or this is an inward supply, and accordingly we have to answer it. So we'll quickly go through the items, and I will not, because we are not here, I'm not focusing here on the answer to this question. I am focusing on how to write the answer. So first is a tour operator service provided entirely to New Zealand cricket team. Second is the snacks and magazines supplied on board the omnibus. Third is the fine paid to Uttar Pradesh state government. Fourth is the intra-state transportation of passengers provided by omnibus. Fifth is the sponsorship fee paid for sponsoring a summer tour fair, which is organized by Green City Lions Club. Now, out of this, the first thing which we have to do is we have to identify which are outward supplies, which are inward supplies. And on inward supplies, we have to, because let us see what is the requirement of the question, then I will tell you. So it provides all the above amounts are exclusive of tax, rate of tax is given to you. Then place of supply also, it has mentioned that wherever you cannot find place of supply, then it will be taken as intrastate supply. So this is also very important information because you don't have to get stuck at that point of time where the nature of supply is not determinable from the information. You straight away has to take that as intrastate where you are not able to determine place of supply. What is the requirement of the question? Gross tax liability. Now, when I say gross tax liability before ITC, it means you have to take the liability as payable under forward charge as well as under reverse charge. Both the liabilities have to be taken. So in this case, you have to see the inward supplies also, and on inward supplies, you have to check whether tax is payable under reverse charge or not. So let us first of all see what is the wrong way of presenting the answer. Now see this answer. In this answer, I want to stress upon is that the amount or calculation is completely correct. So you don't have to go on that. The treatment is also correct. But what I already stressed upon is that writing the notification number, section number will not suffice. See, everywhere only section number or notification numbers are mentioned. So, or circular numbers are mentioned for the reasoning. Final answer is completely correct, but this will not fetch you full marks because this is not the correct way of writing the explanation. We don't want students to do the rote learning or just memorize the section numbers, notification numbers. We want them to know that what these sections, rules, notifications actually contain. What is the actual provision? Because once you go into the practice, you can anytime take out your the law book and you can see the Bare Act or Bare Rules and you can see the what it actually says, which rule says what. But you should know how to apply them. So that rule or that act section is more important, and that is what we want you to reproduce. So this is also not the correct way. Now see this this answer. Here the reasoning is provided for every line item or every supply. Services provided as tour operator. So this is, since tour operator services to a foreign tourist in relation to a tour conducted wholly outside India is exempt or it is not taxable. That is why we have not taxed it here. So we have given the reason. We have not mentioned notification. We have not mentioned entry. We have just given the simple logic or simple explanation which that entry provides. That is what I wanted to focus, that this is how you should answer it. Snacks and magazines supplied. This is a simple taxable entry. No exemption is there. And why is it now? Once you make an entry taxable, second step comes is the nature of supply. For that nature of supply, the place of supply becomes important. So in any explanatory note, first thing is that whether it is taxable or not, whether it is supply or not. And second is, if it is a supply and it is a taxable supply, then what will be the nature? For that you need to mention place of supply. So being based on place of supply, you will mention what is the nature of supply. So it is an interstate supply because place of supply is Haryana, and why it is Haryana, we have given the reason. We have not mentioned section 10(1)(e) because that will not help us. What section 10(1)(e) says has been reiterated here. Fine paid to UP government, it's an inward supply, but it is not taxable. So we did not switch to the nature of supply. We did not switch to place of supply. For entry 1, for item 1, for item 5, we have not mentioned place of supply because they are not subject to GST. Then fourth is intrastate transportation of passengers. Now this is a taxable item and it is taxable in the hands of the Fund Tours Limited or the supplier. The reason is that it is not covered under section 9(5). When you go through this question, this is a May 26 question, you can go through the suggested also. I just want to highlight the main points of presentation here. So here the intrastate transportation of passengers, intrastate is already mentioned. So here also you need not mention the place of supply. You just have to mention who is going to pay tax. Since Fund Tours Limited is going to pay the tax, it is an outward supply. So this has been mentioned or this has been taken in our calculation. Now this is correct. Now what here also I want to stress one important point. Let us see the next slide. The sponsorship of the summer tour fair. Let us once again go to the question and then I will come to this wrong treatment again. Question says, paid sponsorship fee for sponsoring a summer tour operator. Now, who is paying the consideration? Fund Tours Limited is paying consideration to some amount, some money to Green City Lions Club. In sponsorship service, the main error which students commit is they do not understand who is the supplier and who is the recipient. They jumbled it or they take it in reverse manners. Supplier is taken as recipient, recipient is taken as supplier. So I said, when I say Fund Tours Limited has paid the sponsorship fee, it has sponsored the summer tour fair. So they will take it as, since Fund Tours has sponsored, so Fund Tours Limited is the supplier. No, sponsorship services are being provided by Green City Lions Club because this is the golden rule or this is the simple rule to determine the supplier and recipient. One who pays the consideration is the recipient. Recipient pays the consideration and supplier receives the consideration. So for anywhere you have any confusion for while determining supplier and recipient, you should follow this principle that one who pays the consideration is the recipient. So here, since Fund Tour Limited is paying the sponsorship fee, it is the recipient. And the wrong treatment, first of all, I will show you. So their answer will not change, but reasoning is wrong. So you will end up losing marks. So here also, since we are saying that sponsorship services are provided by a body corporate to a non-body corporate, because we have taken Fund Tours Limited to be the supplier. So in this case, we have not invoked or we have not applied reverse charge and Fund Tours Limited has paid the tax. But it becomes wrong because this is not a forward charge tax. It is a reverse charge tax, though it will be added in the answer, but the reasoning is wrong and presentation has gone completely wrong. What is the correct presentation? So this we have already seen that these 4 items were absolutely correct in the last presentation also. But regarding the sponsorship point, you have to separately mention that this is GST payable under reverse charge. And you have to give the correct reasoning that since sponsorship services are provided by NGO, which is a non-body corporate, to a body corporate that is Fund to Us Limited. So tax is payable under reverse charge. And then you have to mention why it is an interest rate supply. Simply mentioning the section will not suffice. So you have to give the proper reason. I hope this makes it clear to you that how you have to mention the reason. So this is the correct way of presenting this answer. Once again, we'll take another example and we'll take it very quickly because some of the points we have already covered in the previous example. This is my classic example, which I generally take and explain, try to explain the students that what other points you have to keep in mind while presenting the answer. This is a computation of value of taxable supplies question. It has list price, packing, duty, CGST, SGST, and subsidy amount. Now, out of these items, see, item 4 is CGST and SGST charged separately. So it is not included in list price of 81,000, and subsidy received from NGO is includable. And this price of 81,000 is before considering the subsidy. Now, when I say before considering the subsidy, very important point. Sometimes students feel that this is not included in list price. No. Subsidy, the treatment of subsidy, if you have to consider subsidy in any price, it means you will reduce that price by the amount of subsidy. That is considering the subsidy means. So if I say subsidy has not been considered, that means price has not been reduced by the amount of the subsidy. So these 2 items, 4 and 5, they have the treatment of not being included or not being added back to the price. So actually, if you have to arrive at the answer, you do not have to take into account item 4 and item 5. So some students, how will they answer this question is they will not show anywhere item 4 and 5, and others they will take into consideration, and this is how they will show it. So this student has actually shown the explanatory notes. So he has given the explanatory notes properly. This section you can avoid. I will once again stress upon that, but this student has given the reasoning, but what he has done is he has not taken 2 items which are not impacting the answer. So this is also a wrong way of presenting the answer. Another way, so this is the correct way of presenting it, that you have mentioned those 2 items also and you have given reasoning for them also, but you have not taken any amount for them, and that will not impact your answer. So this is how your reasoning also has been impacted, because you have to show the reasoning for subsidy also. Again, I would stress upon that when I say subsidy has not been considered, that means subsidy has not been deducted from the price. The treatment of considering subsidy is to reduce it from the price. Now we have to, after that we'll move to section 15 and we will see that whether the subsidy as per section 15, whether it is includable or not includable, that comes in the second part. But first of all, you have to see whether subsidy is included in this price or subsidy is excluded from this price. That is based on whether subsidy has been considered. That means it must have been deducted from the price. Now you have to see in section 15 what you have to do. If we say it has not been considered, that means subsidy has not been deducted from the price, then you have to again go to section 15. Now this is also a wrong way. No reasoning has been provided or just section numbers have been provided. This is not the correct way of presenting the answers. Now quickly some more points I will take for presentation. J Limited sold its old godown used for the purpose of its business. Stamp duty was 14 lakhs. Now you know that the sale of old godown is not a supply. But if you mention as reason that it is exempt under GST, then that is not correct. You have to write the correct reasoning. You cannot write for every item which is not subject to GST. You cannot write it is exempt from GST. That is wrong. What is the correct reason? That it is neither supply of goods nor supply of services as it is covered in Schedule 3. And that is why it is not a supply per se. That is the correct reasoning. That will fetch you full marks. Next is securities. Now, if you have sold the securities, then in that case, you cannot give this reasoning which you have already seen. You cannot say that it is not a neither supply of goods nor supply of services by virtue of Schedule 3. Here you have to tell that securities, you know that securities is not a good or service per se. So there, this reasoning will go wrong. Or you cannot write it is exempt from GST. This is also wrong. What is the correct reasoning? Correct reasoning will be securities are neither goods nor services and therefore the sale of securities is not a supply. So it is not a supply, but because it is those the securities are neither goods nor services. So these two reasons are different in them. Now we come to another example, investment in fixed deposits. Now whenever you are receiving any interest on your fixed deposits, then it is for that, if you give the reason as that it is not a supply, that is also wrong. So some students blanketly take everything which is not subject to GST as it is not a supply. Some students blanketly write it as exempt from supply. Some consider it to be neither supply of goods nor supply of services. No, you cannot write one reason for everything. You have to be very particular while writing the reasons for this. See, this is the correct reason that the services by way of extending deposits as consideration is represented by interest are exempt, and that is why GST is not payable. So in all these cases, the answer is exactly same, that we have not computed any GST, but reason is different, and we have to be very particular, very thorough with the reason. Now we come to the baggage duty computation. It is very important because last time also I told you that there is a change in rate of baggage duty. Social welfare cess had been exempted on baggage. So once again, I want to stress upon this so that anybody who had missed the last session for May 26 also, this was the applicable position. I want to stress upon it this time also. This time, another thing is there that baggage rules have also been substituted. So, but I want to stress upon one important point, which is not, this is not an amendment of baggage rules, but this is an important point for examination. So again, I am stressing upon concessional rate of baggage duty is 35%. So on baggage duty now 38.5% will not be applicable, only 35% will be applicable. Then this 35%, which is called the concessional rate of baggage duty, it is not applicable on firearms and cartridges of firearms exceeding 50. So till 50, this rate will apply. This will be included in the GFA. Then more than 50 cigarettes, or if cigarettes are more than 50, cigars are more than 25, or tobacco is more than 125 grams, or any goods which are imported through a courier service. This 35% rate will not apply from them. So this, I hope you got it. Now, what will be the rate in that case? We have said this rate will not apply to these items. 35% rate will not apply to these items. So the separate rate is for firearms and firearm cartridges exceeding 50, standard rate of baggage duty will be applicable, and that is 70% rate. Please mark this and some note it down somewhere. It is given in the study material also. The corrigendum is there. Corrigendum has been hosted for the study for this particular thing. And it is, this chapter has also been updated on the website, so you can refer that. Firearms and cartridges exceeding 50 will be, it will be subject to 70% rate, and other items, alcoholic liquor or wine more than 2 liters, cigarettes more than 100, cigars more than 25, tobacco more than 125. In these cases, their respective rates will applicable, and you do not have to remember them. You just have to mention this in the exam that on these items, their respective, they will be taxed at their respective rate. So please remember this. The questions in the study material which is hosted on the website are based on this only. And past 2 MTPs also have baggage rules questions based on these provisions only. Now, this example I had taken earlier also, and I want to show you this example again because this has application of these provisions also, plus it has the application of one important baggage amendment also. The general free allowance allowances have been revised under baggage rules 2026. So when we'll be covering the statutory amendments, there it will be covered. I just want to focus on this particular example, that how it has been amended. First of all, used personal effects, they were so they are nil here. Actually, they are not. He does not have any used personal effects. But even if some amount had been there, then also it would have been included in GF. It will have been exempted, or it will not have been taxed. So instead of nil, if I say 50,000 used personal effects, then also while computing the baggage duty, it will be considered as nil. 200 grams of tobacco is there. Now you know that 125 grams of tobacco you can tax at 35%, and you can include it while computing GFA or general free allowance. 75% will be taxed at the respective rate. 50 cigars are there. It has brought 50 cigars. 25 cigars can be taxed at 35%. Remaining cigars will be taxed at their respective rates. Firearms are will not be taxed at the rate of 35%. They will be taxed at 70% rate. So they will not be included in GFA. Cartridges, they are 18 numbers. So 50 cartridges will be taxed at 35%. Remaining cartridges will be taxed at the rate of 70%. And wine, since it is 1.5 liters, so that will be taxed at 35% only. Let us see the answer. Because it says determine the duty payable. If had it said the concessional duty payable, then we would have stopped in the answer which we have shown on the screen. But since it says the entire duty payable on all the items, so that is why we have shown the tax on tobacco, cigar, cigarette separately, which exceed the permissible limits. So use personal effects in this case was nil, but had it been 50, 60, whatever amount, it would have been nil here only, because use personal effects are always exempted. Whatever things you are bringing for your daily purpose, daily use, and they are used personal effects, then that will be allowed irrespective of any limit, any amount. So whatever personal effects you are bringing, they are allowed duty free. Tobacco, you can see that 125 grams of tobacco is includable in the GFA, and it will be taxed at 35%. Whatever excess of GFA is there, it will be taxed at 35% only. So only 125 gram you will take here. Cigars, only 25 cigars will be accommodated in GFA. When we talk about firearm cartridges, only 50 firearm cartridges will be accommodated, and firearms per se have not been included here because they are taxed straight away at 70%. 1.5 liters of wine, it will be included in GFA. Now total amount here comes to 33,125. Now the portion which I have highlighted in green is the change. This is the amendment. Earlier it was 15,000, now it is 25,000. So any tourist of foreign origin, if it is coming to India, then that person will get a general free allowance of 25,000 instead of earlier 15,000. That is applicable for November 26 examination. And because of which the amount on which baggage duty is now to be computed is 8125 and rate is 35%. So 2844 is the baggage duty at the concessional rate. Now, if the question has asked baggage duty at concessional rate, we would have stopped here. But our question asks us determine the duty payable. So that means the entire duty payable on all the items which he has brought. So this note will also be part of your answer, since the question says compute the duty or customs duty payable. So firearms and cartridges, I told you, they will be taxed at the rate of 70%. And the cigars exceeding 25, tobacco exceeding 125, they will be chargeable at the respective tariff rates which are applicable on these two items. So I hope this point you have all understood, that the change in baggage rules affects the GFA general free allowance, as well as since the rate of baggage duty had already changed, or since social welfare surcharge was exempted earlier. So this is not an amendment, but this is something which is applicable for your exam. This is how you have to attempt the baggage question in the exam. That is why I have taken it again. Now we come to the other points of presenting the answers. Code section numbers, I already told you, quote them only when you are 100% certain, because they give an edge to your answer. Any reference you have to cite only when you are very sure of it. Now the pre-exam preparation, read the instructions given in your admit card very carefully, because sometimes it is mentioned that you have to start every question from a new page, or it is even attempt them sequentially. And one more important point, don't attempt the subparts of a question in a scattered manner. So your question should not, your answer sheet should not be in such a manner, 1A, then 2B, 3A, then 4C. It should not be in such a manner. So all subparts of question 4 should be at one place. All subparts of question 2 should be at one place. You can leave sufficient space and you can move ahead. You can anytime come back and attempt the answer. So pen color is also very important. This I have mentioned only whatever your instruction says. So I think now the instruction does not allow blue pen or something like that is there. Whatever instruction admit card provides, that color pen has to be used. Please do not deter from this. Do not deviate from this. Whatever is given in your instruction, follow that. Page format and tick the questions which you have attempted. I think instruction card provides that also. So if it is provided in instruction card, please follow that. Now the application based question, how you have to in these 2 months period, how you can master the application based question. So first of all the questions which are given in test your knowledge section, your recent RTPs, MTPs, you can use the May RTP and suggested answers also. But first of all, attempt all the questions on your own without referring to the answers. This builds a genuine problem solving skills and they help you in understanding the concepts. Now, when you have attempted the question, now compare your answer with the answers given in the suggested answers, but either in the test your knowledge section or RTP or the suggested answers. whatever answers have been provided, now compare it with them. So wherever you feel that yes, you have gone wrong in this particular area, that is the area where you need to focus more. So be more attentive in those areas, or focus on those areas again, go through those areas thoroughly, understand the concept again, and then come back to that question. Moreover, whatever complex computational problems you have come across while doing the computational problems, mark those computational problems, keep them separately for revising day before exam, because that will help you in identifying the common error patterns. They will help you in memorizing the key patterns. Those tricky points you should write somewhere, and those tricky points you should revise day before exam. So what you should do is you should compare the solution, mark the important problems where you have gone wrong, and summarize the treatment of difficult issues at the end of each marked question. So this will give you a gist of difficult, tricky issues which you have to revise day before exam. This is one of your revision material. Practice, compare, mark, annotate, that means summarize the issues, and then master those issues in subsequent revision. So every subsequent revision which you will do, you will revise these questions. And day before exam, if you go through these questions and then you attempt the question paper, definitely I can tell you these mistakes you will not commit, because or these points you will be able to get a lot of confidence. If you see those similar points in the question, you will get a different kind of confidence while seeing the paper, because you know that this is something which I have already attempted. I got wrong there. Now in exam, I will not get wrong. I will be very precise in writing those answers, or I will be very precise in solving those questions, similar the points which I have gone wrong in my practice. Now, so since I was going through how you need to revise the day before exam, so this is also very important point, because something which you have done in your preparation time, it has to be revised. Ultimate preparation day, it ignites your success. Something you're not able to revise, it goes, you will not be able to recall it in examination. So be very, very particular about your revision material. Go through the Saransh booklet. You can refer Saransh booklet for preparing summaries. And I would suggest you prepare your revision material at this stage only. So how you can prepare revision material? Either you can go through the Saransh booklet and you can customize it as per your preparation, or as per your, needs, or as per your preference. You can customize it. You want to add some circulars, some notifications, some more points you want to add it. So make it a complete revision material before the exam day. Or you can prepare your own notes. Preparing your own notes is the best thing to do, but since at this point of time, some students who are beginning at this point of time, they will not be able to do this. So referring Saransh material and adding points to that, whatever you want to add, because revision material has to be customized as per your own preferences. So make a complete revision material at this point of time only. Day before exam, you just have to open that material and you have to go through all the provisions. That's it. Don't refer anything new before the exam day on the preparatory leave. And do only those provisions which you have done during this preparation stage. Now, sequence should be same as the section-wise weightage was there. Substantive provisions first, then enforcement provisions, then procedural law. This was the sequence, or this was the order of the preference, or order of the weightage in the GST portion, as well as in customs also. So in customs, enforcement provisions are not there, but procedural law is definitely there. And this is the sequence. So substantive provisions have to be revised first. So at the time of revision also, you have to follow this. This sequence is very important because it is one thing, it is very logical to prepare and to revise in this manner. And second thing is, it builds up your confidence, because you have done the most significant concepts, then lesser, and then the least. So that will help you in building your confidence also. But most important thing, statutory update. You don't have to leave it. Some students leave it thinking that, okay, this is one of the portions which I have read. I have done almost 90-95% of the syllabus. What if I leave the statutory update? But I would suggest you, or I would advise you, do not do that. Statutory update is one of the most important section. So whenever you are revising also, statutory update also has to be given due weightage. So this is your checklist. Morning you can do Saransh. Then while doing the Saransh, this sequence has to be followed. Then you can do the computational problems. We already discussed that in computational problems, whatever tricky issues you have come upon and you have make a list of those computational issues, go through those issues, And then the statutory update. Statutory update, you have to finish with statutory update because they carry due weightage in your exam. So strategic revision gives you great success and you have to follow that. Smart time management in exam is another thing which has to be done. And just a minute. Yes. So now the next thing is smart time management. So I have told you that how you have to revise. Now, once you have revised properly, whatever you had done in this preparation period, and once again, I would like to stress that this 2 months period is sufficient for your revision. You can do wonders in this 2 months period. Even if I'm not saying revision only, if you have not prepared fully and you want to prepare new concepts also, you can do it. But only thing is you need to focus on that. So whatever you have prepared in this 2 months period has to be revised. That revision, if you have undertaken, then you are fully prepared for your exam day. And on your exam day, in those 3 hours, if you manage the time properly, then smart time management in exam will lead to your success. So first of all, we'll discuss those golden 15 minutes. Why I call these 15 minutes to be golden 15 minutes? Because we do not used to get those 15 minutes. In our time, we do not used to get any reading time. We straight away used to get our question paper in those 3 hours and we had to attempt it. So these are golden because we do not get it and you are getting it. So make the maximum use of it. Now, what I have seen that in the last examination, the MCQ portion as well as the descriptive portion was combined in one paper, I suppose. So this you people would be knowing better. Because if you get the MCQ portion also in those 15 minutes reading time, so then you might get tempted to see the MCQs also. But I would suggest focus first on the descriptive portion. Give a quick glance to all the questions of the descriptive portion and select those questions which you have to attempt from the choice. So don't go through the compulsory question. And then, so don't go through the compulsory question because you have to attempt it anyhow. So what choice you have to do in those 15 minutes is of the optional questions. So 5 questions are optional questions, out of which, first of all, mark the question you do not have to attempt. Now you can easily get that question. Either some students have very fixed preference that I will not attempt the last question, theory question. They feel they are more comfortable with computational questions. Some students must have left some topic. They might have left some topic. So they feel that, okay, this is the question I'm not going to attend. So you have to be, you have to be thorough with that. Just a minute, students. So you have to select the question those questions which you have to attempt out of choice. Then identify the question which you know the best, because that is the question you're going to start with your answers with, and that should be done first. Attempt it properly and divide the time between MCQ and descriptive question strategically, because you cannot do the descriptive question at the cost of MCQs. And the descriptive portion requires the reasoning also. You have to give reason for everything which you are writing. That we have given full stress on that. In MCQs, the advantage is that you do not have to write any reason. So please focus on MCQs. Please try to secure more marks in MCQ, or as much marks in MCQ as you can. So, and try to assign relatively less time, because you do not have to give any reasoning. That is very obvious that when you do not have to write any reasoning, that will take less time. You just have to find the answer and you have to take the right answer. While marking the answer, also be very careful so that you don't get any sequence wrong and your answers might not get wrong. Now, how you have to attempt the MCQ portion: read the case scenario carefully, identify and go through all the questions also. After the case scenario, go through each of the MCQ and try to identify the relevant information in the scenario which will help you in answering that particular MCQ, and the legal provision that will be required for answering that particular MCQ. And based on that, identify the correct answer and mark the answer based on the same. Now, here I would like to tell you one point, that suppose you compute any MCQ and you find that that answer in one of the options. So don't assume it to be correct because that is one of the options given. No, options are generally very close options which are given in the question. and or question paper, and generally the wrong options will also be there. And even if you have computed it wrong and you find it as one of the options, don't assume that that is correct, because wrong options are also there. Try to be very, very sure, double check your answer and then mark your answer in the OMR sheet. In descriptive question, give some allocated time based on the difficulty level and marks assigned to each question, and try to adhere to that time limit. First compulsory question will take more time. Again, I'm telling first compulsory question will take more time. Once the Vishal sir covers the statutory update portion, I will try to give you a quick idea of how to attend the first question at the end of the session, because after this, I will be handing over the session to Vishal sir. He has already joined us. And try to
reserve. If you want, you can complete, so that there will be continuity. I'm okay. That is fine, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So reserve 10 to 15 minutes for review also. And it is quite a possibility that you're not able to revise the paper, but those 10 to 15 minutes, what you are using for identifying, for answering the questions which you have left in the first instance. Because what I told you, that when you have allocated a particular time for a particular question and you are exceeding that time, then try to leave that question there and move to next question. Now, at the end, in last 10 to 15 minutes, you can anyhow come back to that question and attempt that in that reserve time which you have kept. Moreover, try to be very particular about the requirement of the question, because sometimes in a hurry, we assume that yes, this would have been the requirement. And if the question has any other requirement, or the requirement of the question is a bit different than the conventional type of questions, then in that case, there is a possibility that you can do it wrong. So try to be very particular or be very careful while looking at while ascertaining the requirement of a particular question. So now when you get the answer sheet, you have to follow the sequence that start your question with the best, your best question, and then in the descending order, you have to attempt the questions. And your 15 minutes reading time. So it is it's very important for you to do all the planning. Now, MCQs we have already covered, that you have to read the scenario properly, you have to identify the information and the relevant provision, and you have to mark the correct option. You have to be very particular while marking the answers in the OMR sheet. Now, you have to write the answer in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. So don't write too much. In fact, some student asked me that if any question comes, then how do I have to write the answers? Just a minute, let me see what was that question. One of the student asked that, so sections, one student has asked about section that was Varsha. I had already answered that. And one student has asked that how do we need to write the answers when we are attempting the question. So in that case, if you're writing the answers, you have to be very particular about the marks which a question carries. So don't write lengthy answers. Be very, you have to write in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. Writing long answers will not fetch you more marks or extra marks. And try to attempt all the answers. So don't leave any question in the exam, and try to write all the answers, because you know that, and don't spend too much time on 2 or 3 questions, because that will be at the cost of the other questions. So that should also not be done. We have to do justice with each and every question. Whatever time a question requires should be allocated or allotted to that particular question. So stick to your timeline, and if you are exceeding that timeline, move to the next question and try to attempt all the questions. So 6 average answers fetch you more marks than 3 excellent answers. We have to do justice with each and every question. 100% attempt rate is definitely more important. And during the exam, you have to keep relaxed. You have to stay relaxed. You have to have positive visualization. So before the exam, you have to visualize that, yes, you are going to attempt it properly and you are going to achieve success. Try to be as composed, as calm in the paper as possible. You can do breathing techniques if you feel you are getting anxious seeing the paper, and don't get panicked seeing the, if you are not finding too many similar questions, or if you are feeling that, yes, you're not able, you have, the questions are not which you have attempted or which you have practiced, then also, even if you know the provision, you will be able to solve the question. So don't worry on that part. So planning in those 15 minutes is very important. Then execution in 2 hours, 45 minutes, because we have kept 15 minutes for review. So even if you don't get 15 minutes for review, you should at least complete your paper, whatever portion you have left in those 2 hours, 45 minutes, you should complete it in that 10 to 15 minutes. Now, commonly committed errors, we'll try to take in the next session, success at CA exam. But yes, before that, the 14 marks compulsory question the students have asked, and some students have asked in ITC chapter which questions are asked or which type of questions are generally asked in the exam. So I would say the 14 marks question, if one such question is there in RTP also, in MTP2 questions, one question is there, then you will find it in the suggested answer also. Practice it from there, practice it from the ITC chapter. How you have to go through that question is, first of all, you have to identify all the outward supplies. Because if the question has a jumble or mix of all the type of supplies given as information, then you have to see all the supplies which are given to you, and you have to segregate as outward and inward supplies. And when you are when you are drafting the answer, there will be 3 tables which will be there. First is the computation of GST payable on the outward supplies. Then the ITC, the computation of the ITC, and the final table will have the computation of net GST payable in cash. So all the outward supplies which we have identified, we'll see the corresponding additional information also, and on those outward supplies, we will compute GST, taking into consideration whether, first of all, whether it is taxable or not, or it is exempt in nature. And if it is taxable, then whether it is not a composite supply or mixed supply concept is being applicable here. So that will help us in determining the rate of tax. And last comes the nature of supply, whether it is an interstate supply or intrastate supply, for that place of supply is there. So we have to give reason for each of them also. Each of these points, we have to give reasons also. For place of supply, let me tell you one important point. In May 26 examination, it was noticed there was a change in kind of question pattern which is asked. Question explicitly provided that you may not write the reason for mentioning the place of supply. So you have to determine the place of supply, but you do not have to write reason for it. If any such information is there in the question which is explicitly asking you not to write the reason for place of supply, then you have to adhere to that, and then only mentioning that this is the place of supply and because of which the nature of supply is inter and intrastate, that you have to adhere to. So once you have understood the nature of supply as well as the rate which is to be applied, compute the tax accordingly, and mentioning all the explanatory notes. So on outward supplies, you have computed the GST payable under forward charge. You have in that table, you have arrived at the total. Then in the next table, you will be computing the ITC which is available. Now in ITC, while computing the ITC available, you have to take all the inward supplies. You have to see whether it is ITC is available on that or not, whether it is blocked or not. After that, you have to see in the outward supplies whether any of these supplies are there which are exempt in nature. That is very explicit, and whenever you see an exempt supply, it immediately strikes to you that you have to apply the reversal provisions while computing the ITC available for set-off. But in case you have any outward supply on which tax is payable under reverse charge by the recipient, that should also make you recall that yes, reversal provisions have to be applied. So while computing ITC available for set-off in the second table, you have to take into consideration whether reversal provisions have to be applied or not, and be very particular about it. And the third table has the set-off of ITC available against the GST payable, output GST payable. So you have to set off your ITC available for set-off against the output tax liability. And after arriving at the net amount, then you have to add the GST payable under reverse charge. Now at this point of time, when you are setting off your ITC amount, you also have to see the application of Rule 86B. Rule 86B applies when the value of supply in any month exceeds 50 lakhs. And this excludes zero-rated supplies, this excludes exempt supplies also. So that also you just have to check. If in that question 86B has an application, Rule 86B is being applied, then you have to limit your ITC utilization to 99% of the ITC amount. 99% of the output tax liability. 1% of the output tax liability you have to pay in cash. That is also an important point where students generally commit mistake. They take 99% of the ITC. No, you have to take even if you have a huge ITC amount and that is sufficient to pay the entire GST liability. You can pay only 99% of your output tax liability utilizing ITC. Remaining 1% has to be paid in cash if Rule 86B is applicable. So that applicability also you have to check side by side. You have to check whether reversal provisions are applicable or not. For reversal provisions, there are two indicators. First is exempt supplies. In outward supplies, exempt supplies are there. And second is that supplies are taxable on reverse charge basis. That means our supplier is not liable to pay tax on those supplies. They will also be considered as the exempt supplies. Zero rated supplies are not considered as exempt supplies. They are considered as taxable, and that you have to take care while computing the common credit, ITC available for set off. Now, in computation table, you have to take the ITC on all the inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge, and you have to set it off for paying off the output tax payable. Then when you get the next net amount on that, in that net amount, you have to again very precisely, you have to identify those inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge. Maybe the import of services are there. On account of that also, it could be possible that the tax is payable under reverse charge. So they have to be added back separately. On import of goods, though tax is payable by the importer only, but that is not payable through the GST portal, that is payable through iScape. So that note also has to be properly given. Few questions are there. In fact, in this RTP also we have included one such question where the tax has to be paid on import of goods by the importer. But since that is not payable, that is not paid through GST portal, so that note also has to be there in the answer. Take care of that. Try to attempt the question, which is 14 marks question, which is given in the RTP this time. That is a very good question for the practice for the common credit. You will get a fair idea that how you have to present your answer also. Try to see 2-3 questions of the past question papers, or in ITC chapter also. At the end of the ITC chapter, sufficient questions are given to you for the preparation of first compulsory question. So try to practice as much as possible in this for this first question, because there you have to be very quick in identifying the outward supplies, inward supplies, computing respective tax, and reversal provisions also you have to practice sufficiently. So questions are there for practice. Please try to be very thorough in that. With this, I have completed my discussion on my deliberation. So over to you, sir. Now you can discuss the significant amendments which are applicable for November 26 examinations. Sir will try to cover the significant amendments, and whatever amendments will be left, because we have paucity of time, we have very limited time with us, but we'll try to cover as much as possible. Whatever amendments will be left, we'll try to cover in the next session. That is the Success at CA exam session, which will be held in the month of October. Over to you, sir.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Okay. Sir, I'm stopping my presentation. In the meantime, sir, you are starting your presentation. I just want to highlight one more point, which Falguni has asked. She has asked the exact point I wanted to stress upon by giving the reasons. Though you would have got this answer, Falguni, while seeing the explanations which I had given as an example to you. I had shown you how to present the answers. So when a question requires you to answer whether a particular transaction is supply or not, so you have to give only the relevant provision, and you do not have to enumerate the entire supply definition or all the provisions of supply definition which are there. No, whatever point is relevant for your particular question, that only you have to write. You have to be very precise in writing the reasoning. But yes, that should be the exact reasoning which is applicable in your particular case. So don't write the entire provision, write only the applicable provision. In case of a practical question which suppose like time of supply, in case of forward charge or reverse charge, so you only need to write the provision which is applicable on your case. And moreover, I would always say that don't feel that you have to reproduce the exact language of the section or rule, or you have to write the exact language which is given in the study material. No, you have to write it in your own language. But yes, be very careful while writing it in your own language, because that you should not deviate from the exact meaning. Your explanation should convey the same meaning which section or rule is or provision is providing. So be very careful while writing it in your own words, but that does not mean that you have to write the exact language of the section or rule. You can write it in your own words. For that, you can see the suggested answers. I have given you a few examples also. Everywhere you could have seen that the answers are not given in the exact language of law. They are in the language in which students can write in their own language. But yes, you have to convey the same meaning which that section conveys. Yes, sir. Please, you may start. presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, students. Now, after this insightful deliberation by ma'am, which I'm sure would have cleared many of your common queries that are always coming up at your exam preparation stage. So we at BOS try to cater to all these practical insights, and also we always regularly conduct these type of programs so that we can help you sail through your upcoming exam in the best possible manner and securing the maximum you can say marks. So in this line, now the topic or the portion allotted to me is covering the important updates that are relevant to your November 26 exams. So let me start with these amendments. So amendments are bifurcated into two parts. First, we'll look at the GST related amendments, and then we'll go to customs and FTP. Now, as you all know, that amendments made by the previous budget, that is the Finance Act 2025, are definitely applicable to you, and most of them are already covered in your study mat towards the end of the respective chapters. Then a common question that comes to us is, what about, sir, applicability of this year's Finance Act? So this year's Finance Act has also been passed. It has also become the law. But as you all know, that many provisions from the Finance Act are always made applicable from a later date, generally which is 1st of October. So they are yet to be notified, and even if they are notified to be applicable from 1st of November, 1st of October, whenever they will not be relevant for your exams, because as a rule, we have to cover only those amendments which have been notified to be effective at least 6 months prior to your exams. So yes, there is one important aspect which has been notified. So I'll be covering that in my today's update. But other than that one amendment or any other amendment in the Finance Act 2026, which is not yet notified, will not be applicable to your exams. So as mentioned over here, all amendments which are notified to be effective up to 30th of, if I'm not wrong, 30th of April 2026 will be applicable to your exams. So we have tried to cover all of them in this particular statutory update. So now we have arranged this in the sequence of your module chapters. So it also becomes easy for you to connect it, and wherever required, you can even make the markings over there. So let me start with the first amendment, which deals with the topic on charge of GST. So here, students, we know Section 9, which is the charging section in the CGST Act, and parallelly Section 5 of the IGST Act, has provided that in some cases, the tax has to be paid under reverse charge, which is under 93945354. Then in majority of the cases, the tax is to be paid under forward charge. And then there is one more scenario, which is under Section 9 bracket 5 and Section 5 bracket 5, 9 of CGST, 5 of IGST, where the tax is required to be paid neither by the supplier nor by the recipient, but by a third person. This third person is the online app through which you are availing those supplies. Now we call these online apps as e-commerce operator in the GST law, in short ECO. Now Section 9(5), students, provides that in case of notified services only, not goods. So in case of supplies of notified services, the tax on it would be payable by the e-commerce operator. Now in this list, there is an amendment. So let me just take you through the entire list just for your benefit and your recall. So this particular list, which covers those notified services on which tax is required to be paid by the app through which these services are provided. They cover firstly the service of passenger transportation. So commonly we book the cab, we book at times two-wheelers, we book at times rickshaw using the online app. Multiple apps we are using: Ola, Uber, Rapido, and many more. So these apps are covered under 9.5. That is first. Second, now you can even book omnibus through the app. So whenever you want to travel with your family, with your friends, and it is a group travel, so many times we prefer an omnibus. So again, the provision of service of transportation of passenger by omnibus booked through the app will also be covered under 9.5, and the tax would be payable by the app and not by the supplier nor by the recipient. Then comes the service of hotel accommodation. So whenever you are traveling, and nowadays it is very common that before we travel, we arrange all our bookings and we book an hotel, and this hotel is also we are booking through some online app. Now when you are booking hotel accommodation services, which may be accommodation in hotel, in guest house, club, campsite, and other commercial places, in such cases, here there is a carve out given in this particular point. So one rule is that when you are booking the hotel through the app, it is covered in 9.5. So the app has to pay the tax in respect of the hotel accommodation service. However, there is a carve out that this 9.5 will not apply where the hotel itself is required to take registration under section 22. It means where the hotel has a turnover exceeding 20 lakhs, whereby the hotel is liable for paying GST and taking registration. In that particular case, the app need not pay tax. In that case, the hotel will be collecting and paying tax from you under forward charge. The third category is housekeeping. So whenever you shift your location to new city, you require many facilities, services, which we call as housekeeping, which covers drivers, which covers housemaids, which covers plumbers, which covers cleaners. So all these services now, again, since past few years, we have multiple apps who are providing these services. Now we are having festival seasons coming up. So at that time also we require cleaning of house, cleaning of our bathrooms, etc. So we hire these services. These are the housekeeping services. Again, over here, the same rule like hotel accommodation, the app is made liable to pay the tax under 9.5 provided the service provider, so the carpenter or the driver or the maid, whoever you are hiring through this app, if that person is liable to take registration and pay tax under GST, then the tax will be payable by that person under forward charge. Otherwise, it will be by the app under 9.5. Then comes the next service, which was added recently, that is restaurant services. So whenever you book food and the food is delivered to you, that supply of restaurant services is covered in 9.5. Again, here there is a carve out. The carve out is where this restaurant is situated in a hotel whose per unit room rent exceeds 7,500, then we call such a place as specified premises. So if this restaurant or eating joint is situated in a specified premises, and if you are booking food from that particular restaurant, then in this particular case, the 9.5 will not apply. Otherwise, in all other cases, the restaurant services is what is covered under 9.5. That is the app through which you are booking this restaurant services will be required to pay the tax. Now, after revising and recalling all the previous provisions, now comes the most important point, which is the amendment for November. And when we proceed, you'll find that there is a parallel linkage of this in your chapter of exemption also, and it has a linkage with GT also. So in that particular case, you have to be very clear in understanding this, because I'm sure, at least as a student, I will expect an exam on this particular point. So let us understand this. What is this service? So this is the service in the wordings of the law. is local delivery service. Now, interestingly, nowhere the law defines local delivery, but that is what is the terminology used. So what is a local delivery? So if I have to equate it with whatever is the present law setup, so basically now you find that we are using apps like Porter, most common presently, is where we are using these apps because we want to dispatch or deliver something from one place to another, and both these places are within the local city limits. So nowadays there is a new app or a new, you can say, functionality in the social media domain. That is what is this app, which is over here termed as local delivery service. So let us say I'm going to my office and I forget some important documents. So earlier either I used to, or I had to go back home and collect it, or I had to ask someone from home to send it to the office. Now that is not required. It is now that is not required because we have a very good facility whereby we can book a porter. The person would collect that particular documents from my home and deliver it at my office. So this is what is the local delivery service. Again, the same exception which was applicable to hotel accommodation is what is appearing over here, that where the person who is providing this service, if that person is required to take registration and pay tax under GST law, then the app would not be required to do this. Otherwise, the app would be required to pay the tax. So this is the local delivery service amendment. Now I would like to link this with your exemption chapter. So in exemption, we are going to study, or rather we have studied the exemption of GTA service, Goods Transport Agency Service. And there we have studied the provision of even reverse charge. Now let me inform you what you have to understand, and what the lawmakers have expressly tried to do is they have tried to distinguish out this service of local delivery from GTA. Generally, students, GTA is a service which is intercity or many times interstate. So whenever you are required to deliver, dispatch your goods for a longer distance, we use these services of GTA. And when it is intra-city within the local limits, we are using these apps which are called as by the law local delivery apps. So please distinguish this out, because this is going to be the key point in your exams. This is going to be the point on the basis of which you would be tested. So difference between GTA and this local delivery. What are the differences? First, if it is GTA, it would be covered in forward charge and reverse charge depending upon the option opted by GTA. Otherwise, if it is not, local delivery is not having the option of forward or reverse. In case of local delivery, if the local delivery service provider is liable for registration under GST, it will be only forward charge. If not, then it will be only 9.5 where the app will be paying. There is no RCM applicable in case of local delivery because it is not GTA. First point. Second point, most important thing that you have to understand is that since this is different from GTA, no other provision of GTA like option of RCM, FCM, nothing will apply. Similarly, what will not apply? Since it is different from GTA, so the exemptions which are applicable, which if you recall, in case of GTA, we studied the exemption where we studied that GTA doing goods transportation of specified goods like military equipment, relief material, then your food grains, milk, salt, all these items, when GTA is performing the transportation service of these items, it is exempt. Now, if let us say you have to send the same item through this local delivery apps, it will be taxable. This is where you have to distinguish out and not mix between the two, because in both one thing is common, you are transporting some commodity. But the difference is the nature and the manner in which this transportation is happening. In case of GTA, you are giving consignment note. The GTA gives you consignment note. This is one of the most important feature factors of GTA, as you have seen in the definition of GTA. But no such requirement is there in case of local delivery app. So you can say that is one of the distinguishing factor, that where a consignment note is given, it will be GTA. Otherwise, you can classify it here in the local delivery app category. So for GTA, what we have to remember is that in relation to GTA, we have the option of forward and reverse. Now here also, students, there is an important amendment, because if you recall last year in September, just near to the start of festive seasons, the government had brought about GST 2.0. And at that point, they had brought about n number of exemptions and reduction in tax rates. So GTA is one such case where there is a change in rate, though there is no reduction over here. So I have made a structure of how you have to apply the GTA exemption, or rather the entire GTA, how you'll apply it. So first check whether the transportation is GTA, because you have now another option, which is local delivery app. So you have to check whether the question is talking about GTA or other than GTA. Now, how will you distinguish out? I have already given you the point above, that if the question says that consignment note is given for this transportation service, then it will be a GTA, otherwise it will be not. Now, once the question says consignment note is given, it means it is a GTA service. Then comes the next point, check whether the goods which are being transported are covered in the GTA exemption entry. Like as I named a few of the goods, if you're transporting them, then the GTA service of those goods are exempt. If the transportation is not of those goods, then you have to check the GTA for RCM applicability. So if the goods which you are transporting are not covered in the exemption list, now you will check what is the mechanism for discharge of tax. Now here there is an option. Now when RCM will apply, students, if the recipient is one of the specified recipient who is registered under any law means it may be registered under Factories Act, Companies Act, or it may be a partnership firm, or it may be a registered dealer under the GST law, or a registered casual taxable person. So these are the specified entities. Now when the GTA is providing services to them, now the law provides GTA the option that at the start of the year, the GTA may decide that it wants to be taxed under forward charge, where the GTA will collect and pay tax, or it wants that the tax be paid by the recipient entity. Now, in case the GTA opts that the tax would be paid by the recipient entity, that is the GTA has opted for RCM, then there is a single tax rate, which is 5%. However, where the GTA opts for forward charge, within forward charge, there are two tax rates. Now, earlier, prior to the amendment, one rate was 12% with ITC and the other rate was 5% without ITC. Now, after the amendment, the new rate is, instead of 12, as you know, in this amendment, which has happened last year, now they have reduced the slabs. They have removed the 12% and 28% slabs. So whatever was 12% is either shifted to 5 or has been shifted to 18. Now, in this case, the GTA is shifted to 18. So now the two rates which are applicable to GTA, which is under forward charges, 18% with ITC or 5% without ITC. Now here I would like to inform students that this amendment is made in the rate notification. However, I have not found a parallel amendment in the RCM notification, which I believe is just you can say it has been missed out by the legislature to correct their RCM notification also. So unfortunately, RCM notification still talks about the old rate. So they are saying 6%, 6 plus 6, 12. So they are saying 6%. But since the rate notification has changed, so you will read it in the light of the new rate notification. So now where GTA has opted for forward charge, the two rates which will be applicable are 18% with ITC, 5% without ITC. Similarly, students, similar to passenger goods transportation, that is GTA, you have another service, that is passenger transportation, whereby the service is of renting of a motor vehicle designed to carry passengers, where the cost of fuel is also included. Now again, over here, you are having the rate, which is 5% with full ITC, has now been changed to 18%. So both these changes are parallel. So it will be easy for you to remember that even in case of GTA, which is also transport service, and even in this category, which is also carrying of passengers to motor vehicle, the renting of motor vehicle service, in both cases, the 12% rate, which is with full ITC, has been changed to 18% with full ITC. So as I said, there is still that anomaly in the reverse charge notification. It is still using that old rate reference, but you have to now read it constructively as 18%. Now moving on to the second category of exemptions, which is in the exemption chapter, the amendments. So as I was saying, now after the introduction of that new concept of local delivery, the lawmaker have made out this clear-cut distinction that local delivery is different from GTA. So we have this exemption entry whereby it is said that service by way of transportation of goods is exempt. However, the exception is GTA and courier. So what this exemption entry gives an impression is that all transportations of goods by road will be exempt except two types of transportation. One is GTA, one is courier. So if you are doing transportation by any other medium of goods by road, it should be exempt. However, that is not the case, because in this entry, now an explanation has been added, which clearly says that nothing contained in this entry will apply to this local delivery service. So the local delivery service, which is now newly introduced, is kept specifically outside the exemption, which is applicable to transportation of goods by road. So this particular exemption will not apply to local delivery. So the local delivery services will always be taxable. Now here, interestingly, students, if you observe, they have categorized the local delivery into two types of categories, and both are covered in the taxable category because both have been kept outside the exemption category. What is this? Local delivery, which is provided by the ECO, and local delivery which is provided through the ECO. Now you'll say, sir, what is the difference? So the difference is, let us say I'm running an app through which I'm providing this local delivery service, and this app which I'm using is only an app to connect the service provider and the service recipient. Means I myself will not be carrying your goods, but what I'm doing, I'm using my app as a platform whereby different people who want to provide the services, that is a provider of these services, they will register themselves, and you all as customers can come to my app and you can select your location from where to where you want the goods to be transported, and somebody around your location will select and will come to your doorstep for picking up the goods. This is local delivery through the e-commerce app. What is by the e-commerce app? So I have myself started the business of doing this local delivery. So I have my own team, maybe of 100 people, whom I have given proper two-wheelers and wherever required tempos, because goods, if are heavy, have to be carried in tempos. So these people are on my payroll. It means my business is of providing local delivery service. Now, to provide this service, I have launched my own website, I have launched my own app, and you are booking my service using my app only. In this case, that will be local service provided by the e-commerce operator. So whatever it is, I am myself providing, or I am only acting as a platform to connect the service provider and recipient. In both cases, both local delivery services are taxable and both have been excluded, removed from the exemption. Then come, students, the next very important exemption, very welcome exemption, that is exemption for life insurance and health insurance. So now from 22nd September 2025 onwards, if you are taking any life policy or a health policy, which is also called as a Mediclaim policy, in that case, the premium paid by you will now not be leviable to GST. However, if you read both these entries, the entry says service of life insurance business provided by insurer to the insured is fine up to this point. Now, this part is important, where the insured is not a group. So within this life insurance and health insurance, they have kept a carve out whereby a particular type of life and health insurance will not be covered in the exemption. Now the question is, what are they meaning by the group? So here, by group, they are meaning groups which are connected because of some common commercial purpose. What is not covered in the group, it means what will be eligible for the exemption is where the insurance is taken by the individual covering his family members. So many times you will find that we take a health insurance policy which is covering myself and my family members. In such cases, it has been clarified that this will not be covered in the category of group. It means where I'm taking exemption either independently for myself, that is also exempt, plus where I'm taking the policy for myself along with my family members, this is also covered in the exemption. This is not covered in the definition of group. Now, another important question that may come to is who will be covered in family members. So over here, the exemption notification has provided in the explanation that family will include all individuals who are covered in that insurance. So it is not important that the family will only include either spouse or parents or children, not necessary. No specific definition of family is given. It simply says whatever your insurance contract is covering in family, we are accepting that as family. So same principle applies for both types of insurance. Now then the question that remains is, who is this group which will not be eligible for this exemption? So the answer is group means group of persons who have come together for commonality of purpose and who are engaged in some common economic activity. Now what this group will be? Employer-employee groups or non-employer-employee groups. So what is this? So commonly you will find, you would have studied this in income tax also, that the employer has taken a group insurance policy to cover all the employees. Now, in this case, it will be the first category of employer-employee groups, which is not covered in the exemption. So whenever the employer is taking a group policy to cover its employees, that policy is taxable. It is leviable to GST. Similarly, non-employer-employee groups would be company taking insurance on its directors, firm taking insurance on the partners. So these are all non-employer-employee groups, and they are also out of the exemption. They are all covered in the taxable category. So where only individual or individual with family are insured, then only the life insurance, the health insurance will be exempted. Moving ahead, students, the next is valuation chapter. Now in valuation, we have an amendment by the budget, but as I mentioned at the start, the budget amendment is not applicable to us because it has right now not yet been notified. It may get notified to be effective from 1st of October. Still, it will not apply to your exams. So what we are studying right now is the amendment made last year and which is not covered in the present budget because this budget amendment, as I said, is not applicable to us for November exams. Now, what is this amendment? For understanding this, we'll have to just understand briefly the point which we are going to discuss. So section 15, which deals with valuation, says that whenever you are accepting your transaction value as the taxable value, you have to make some additions to that, which is provided in subsection 2. And one exclusion is allowed, which is in subsection 3, that is exclusion towards discount. Now, within that, there are two types of discount. First, clause A covers discount, which is given at the time of supply, which is recorded on the invoice itself. There is no change in that. The second discount, which is given in part B, that discount deals with post-supply discount. What is post-supply discount? So the discount which is given after the sale is completed, which is given in later point of time, which is many times given in the form of turnover discount or discount because you have made some special sales. So in that particular case, that discount is called as post-supply discount. Now for post-supply discount, there are two conditions in subclause 1 and 2. Subclause 1, the condition is there should be a pre-agreement that this type of discount will be provided. This pre-agreement condition, students, please pay attention, is also removed. It is removed by the budget, which is Finance Act 2026. And I will again repeat, it is not applicable to you. So even though this condition has been removed, but for the time being for November exams, this condition continues. So the first condition for post-supply discount is that there should be a pre-agreement that continues. The second condition is what is the amendment. Now, what is the second condition? The second condition is that the discount should also ensure that when you are giving the discount, the person, your recipient, should have also proportionately reversed the ITC. Now, for this second condition, there is an amendment. What is the amendment? Now, earlier there was a circular. The circular said that how will I as a supplier come to know whether my recipient has reversed that much ITC or not? So this circular was introduced, which said that you have to take an undertaking from the recipient, or where the amount of ITC exceeds 5 lakhs, you have to take a certificate from the recipient, and this certificate will be given by a CA or a CMA certifying that the recipient has reversed the ITC corresponding to your discount. Now, this certificate requirement has now been removed. In other words, this particular circular making this particular requirement of undertaking or certification, you can say, has been withdrawn by a new circular number 253. Now, what is the logic or reason? The reason is from 1st October 2025, we have now the IMS, which is the Invoice Management System. This particular concept has been introduced in the GST returns. Now, because of the IMS functionality, now automatically when I will be raising a credit note for this discount along with GST, and the moment this credit note is accepted or deemed accepted in the IMS, automatically the GST portal will reduce the ITC of the recipient. So now this exercise of getting an undertaking or certificate is no more required. Another amendment is, students, in the valuation rules. Now in valuation rules, we have a rule relating to lottery betting gambling, which was, if you remember, was revised also in 2023 after the introduction of the specified actionable claims of casino, of online money gaming, etc. Now in this particular valuation rule for lottery, earlier the tax rate was 28. So the valuation provided that when you have to compute the GST on the lottery, you have to make a back calculation whereby the value of the lottery is to be considered as inclusive of GST. So what back calculation was done? Multiplied by 100 divided by 128. This would give you the taxable value of that lottery. Now, as we discussed earlier, now that rate of 28% or the slab of 20% has been removed, and instead we have the rate of 40%. So correspondingly, this rule had to be amended. So now the new rule says that how will you compute taxable value in case of lottery? Same back calculation, but now multiplied by 100 divided by 140. Because the new rate applicable to lottery is changed from 28 to 40. So now the value of lottery is including of 40% tax. Then student, another important clarification relating to post-supply discount. What is this clarification? This clarification is relating to treatment of secondary discounts or the post-supply discounts. Now, one clarification which we studied above was where the supplier gives a GST credit note. For that, now corresponding certificate from the recipient, that requirement has been discontinued. Now, the second clarification is relating to the other type of credit note, which is called as accounting credit note or non-GST credit note. So we had an old circular which said that whenever a company has to give discount or whenever a supplier has to give discount, and let us say the time limit for issuing the GST credit note has elapsed, in that case, the supplier can pass on the discount by issuing a non-GST credit note, that is an accounting credit note. Now, in this particular case, when an accounting credit note is given, a new challenge that came up was that this accounting credit note was challenged by the departments whenever they were conducting the assessment or audits. Now, what was the challenge by the department? That has been clarified through this new circular. Now, what is the issue? Let us first understand this. So the issue is that if I have issued a non-GST credit note or an accounting credit note to my recipient. So my credit note will be only covering the principal amount that is of discount without the corresponding GST. Now, when I gave this credit note to my recipient, the recipient at the time of their assessment or audit were asked by department to reverse the ITC. Now, this was a big challenge to the recipient because I have not charged any GST on my discount credit note, but they were asked to reverse the ITC. So first clarification that has been given by this circular is, the question asked is whether full ITC is available to the recipient. In other words, whether the recipient is required to reverse the ITC. So the clarification given is that yes, full ITC will remain available to the recipient and the recipient is not required to reverse the ITC. The reason is because when the supplier raised the credit note, the supplier did not add GST, though supplier is not reducing his output liability, then why should the recipient be required to reduce their ITC? First clarification. Then another issue that is that in some cases, since these credit notes were reported by the recipients in their P&L as a additional income, as a supplementary income, they used to call it as incentives. They used to call it as some concession scheme, discount received. So another challenge that was faced by these recipients is that in some cases, the department were asking them to treat the amount of this discount received, which may also be called as incentive or some special bonus, to be treated as a new supply, because this amount which was received by them was required or was asked by the department to be treated as a consideration. Now, this particular challenge was also addressed in the circular, and the circular has clarified that. So the question that was asked is that whenever a post-supply discount is given, whether it has to be treated as a consideration paid by the manufacturer to the dealer, because there is some supply being happening between them. So it has been clarified that there are two possibilities. The first possibility is you have to check whether there is any type of understanding between the manufacturer and the final consumer. So let us say there is a manufacturer company, you are the distributor of that company goods, and you have sold the goods to Mr. X, who is the final consumer. Now, what does this circular says? Check whether the discount which is given by the manufacturer to you, whether this is given under an understanding or agreement between the manufacturer and the final consumer. If there is no such understanding, no such agreement, which students, let me inform you, practically this will be the case in majority of the scenarios. So practically there is no agreement between the manufacturer and the end consumer. The manufacturer do not even know who is the end consumer. So the transaction between me and my manufacturer and then between me and my customer, both are independent sale transactions. In such cases, they are saying that this discount will not be treated as any new consideration and hence there is no tax treatment. However, the second possibility of this is that yes, there is some understanding, there is some agreement between the manufacturer and the end customer, that manufacturer will pass on the discount to me and I will pass on the discount to the customer. But this is because of an understanding or agreement between the manufacturer and the end consumer. In such cases, the clarification given is now this should be treated as part of my overall consideration and I will have to discharge tax. So the supply which I have made to my customer, I will have to add this discount which I have received from the manufacturer in that supply, and I have to treat this as an additional consideration of that supply and discharge tax on that. Then another question was that many times I am required to carry out some extra sales promotion activities. And as per the understanding between me and my manufacturer, the manufacturer would reimburse me the cost of this sales promotion. So the question is that whenever I am carrying out any type of sales promotion where the manufacturer, that is the company whose products or for whom I am doing this particular sales promotion, because ultimately the product belongs to the company, whether if the company is reimbursing me these expenses, whether it has to be treated as a supply between me and the company. So here, the first part of the circular clarifies that these particular promotional activities are done by me to boost my sales. I am doing it because I want to enhance my sale. I am not doing it because I want to enhance the sales of the manufacturer. Yes, automatically that is getting enhanced, but ultimate purpose, my thought process of carrying out these additional activities is because I want to enhance my sales. In such cases, this particular amount, that is the discount given by the manufacturer to me to cover up these expenses which I have incurred, will not be treated as any additional consideration. However, GST will be applicable. In other words, it will be treated as a consideration where I have undertaken any specific sales promotion activities such as advertising, co-branding, customization, special sales drive, etc. And such services are explicitly stated in my agreement, and it is clearly defined as consideration payable for such sales promotion. In short, so the circular distinguishes that where this was an explicit requirement of my contract with the manufacturer that I will carry out these specific sales promotion activities for which the manufacturer will reimburse to me. In such cases, it will be treated as a consideration and I have to discharge the tax. Yes. Now, another amendment is in section 15.5. Students, I'm sure you all know what is section 15.5. So section 15.5 provides that in respect of some notified supplies, the valuation will be determined in the manner provided in the rules. Now, in this relation, there is an amendment. The amendment is in relation to one specified category where now the value to be taken, the taxable value to be taken will be the retail sale price. Now, what are the goods for which this new valuation mechanism has been introduced? So that is pan masala, unmanufactured tobacco or tobacco refuse, cigars, cherots, cigarillos, or products of tobacco and tobacco substitutes, and various other manufactured tobacco and tobacco substitutes. So in all these cases, students, if now I am any person dealing in these goods, even though I am selling the goods at a price lower than the MRP, maybe because I am the distributor or the wholesaler, still I will be required to discharge the tax at the retail sale price. So this is what is a very important amendment in this particular point. Then further, what is given in Rule 31D? So this newly introduced Rule 31D is saying the same thing, that for these notified goods, the same notified goods which we saw above, now the value to be taken for the purpose of determining the tax is the RSP. Now, since we know RSP is including tax, hence how will you find out the amount of tax? It will be RSP into tax rate upon 100 plus tax rate. So again, by the same back calculation method, you will determine the amount of tax on this goods because we are taking RSP as the value for the purpose of determining the tax. Next amendment, students, is in relation to ITC. Now in ITC, we have a concept of input service distributor. Now in case of input service distributor, the amendment is more of a clarificatory amendment. So the amendment simply clarifies that even the tax which is paid under RCM will also be covered under the ISD mechanism. So wherever the tax liability is charged by supplier to me, or I am paying it myself and I am the ISD, in both cases, the ISD mechanism will apply and I will have to distribute this particular tax as well. So besides the tax which is charged by my supplier to me under forward charge, that also I will be distributing through the ISD mechanism, plus on those inward supplies where I have myself required to pay the tax. In that case also, I will be using the ISD mechanism and that can also be distributed through the ISD mechanism. Then comes an amendment in Rule 86B. Now, student, this amendment is corresponding to our previous amendment of valuation. Now, in valuation, we saw that now for certain notified goods, which is pan masala and various types of tobacco products, the value to be taken is RSP. Now, an interesting situation will arise that if the value is to be taken as RSP, so I am the distributor, my manufacturer has sent me goods, valuation taken is RSP. Again, I have to take the same RSP and sell it to the wholesaler. Now, wholesaler has received the goods for which again the invoice which I have raised, the taxable value is RSP, and the wholesaler has to sell it to the retailer, and again the retailer to the customer. All are selling at RSP, not selling, sorry. All are taking the taxable value as RSP because of this new rule 31D. Now, because of this, practically what will happen? My input tax and output tax will be same. Whereas, if you remember, this rule 86D requires me to discharge minimum 1% of my tax liability through cash ledger. So it is allowing me to only utilize 99% of my tax liability from ITC, and at least 1% has to be discharged using the cash ledger. But in this particular case, that is the RSP rule, which is newly introduced for these 6 items, I will be having the same input tax and the same output tax, because at both sides, the taxable value which I have to take is RSP. Now, in this case, if my input tax and output tax is same, where is the question of me paying anything to the cash ledger? So identifying this in this rule 86D, as you have some other exceptions where that 86D rule is not applicable, they have added one more exception, that wherever the person is covered under this rule 31D, except the manufacturer of these goods, so all other in the distribution chain, for them, the rule 86D has been relaxed. So they need not discharge the tax liability through the cash ledger 1% rule mechanism. And then students, there is amendment in the registration whereby, if you recall last year, they had provided, the council had provided that now there will be fast track registration, whereby after making an application for low risk category of notified or identified businesses, the registration would be granted immediately. Now, who are eligible for this fast track registration mechanism? So the law says that particular mechanism of fast track registration applies first to those who are in the non-risk category, and to those who are not having output liability on account of their supplies to registered person exceeding 2.5 lakhs in a month. So those whose monthly output tax liability for B2B supplies is not exceeding 2.5 lakhs, they will be eligible for this fast track registration mechanism. Ma'am, are we required to cover the remaining today itself?
Sir, we can cover them in the success at CA exam session also.
Okay, fine.
I think major amendments, some of the major amendments have been duly covered. And
I think major all have been covered. Now only the procedural ones are left. Yes.
Have been left, and whatever other amendments specifically in baggage rules that I will cover in success at CA exam.
Okay.
One question, although I have taken, so students have got an idea. Some students had in fact asked me that whether the baggage rules are applicable. So baggage rules 2026 are applicable for November 2026 examination, and questions in RTP are also based on same. They are forming part of the statutory update also. So please go through them and solve the questions as per baggage rules 26 only in the examination. I think now few queries I have received from the students that I will cover. Just a minute. Let me, sir, I think I can share this. One of the student has asked that how to identify that Abhirami Srivatsan has asked that she has a doubt with respect to when to take due date of filing return and when to take actual date of filing return. So that is particularly while computing some of the limitation periods under the law. So for that, I have prepared a table quickly just to give an idea. I think I have my screen. Is it visible to the students?
It is visible, but somehow the screen sharing. Now it is, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So this is the actual date. See, in some of the cases, actual date is there. In some of the cases, due dates are there. These are some of the significant primary cases where actual date and due date difference is there. But for other students, because there can be other cases also, there can be other cases also where students find some of the such kind of situations where they feel that yes, they have to learn something. I think students, it is not visible. For students, it is not visible to them.
Ma'am, I can see your screen in the sharing mode. I don't know why students cannot see. I can see, ma'am. Now it
Okay.
is in the sharing mode.
I will just spell it out also for the students. I will tell them what actually I am covering. So in case you have any doubt regarding, because actual date of annual return and due dates of, yes, that is true. At some places we have actual date of filing of annual return for computing the limitation period. For example, while computing the time limit for taking ITC on any of the invoices, then the actual date of annual return or 30th September of the financial year has to be taken. I think now it is visible to the students. Okay. So in that case, they have to take the actual date of annual return. Similarly, while declaring the time limit, while computing the time limit for declaring the credit note, then also actual date is to be taken for rectification of GSTR1, computing the time limit for rectification of GSTR1 or GSTR3B, actual date has to be taken. And in case of for the due dates, we need to take the due date for computing. When we have to take the due date of annual return, then what are the cases where we have to take the due date of annual return? It is period for which books of accounts should be retained, assessment of non-filers under section 62, assessment of unregistered persons, and section 74A. These are some of the main sections or main cases where due date of annual return has to be taken. But there can be other cases also. Suppose you have to remember the due date of filing the returns, or you have to remember the dates, or there are certain provisions of law which you find difficult to retain. Then in that case, what I generally suggest, either for memorizing these kind of dates or section or rates of interest, or because generally rate of taxes we have not included. We don't expect the students to remember, but yes, rate of interest in under different provisions they have to remember. Due dates they have to remember. So for that, what you can do is you can make a chart and you can keep it on your study table, so that or is this kind of differentiation you can prepare and you can make a chart of it and you can keep it on your study table, so that you can, if you revise it on a daily basis, or if you have a glance on a daily basis, you will be able to retain it, because memorizing it on is sometimes becomes difficult, but this way you can do it and it will become easy for you. In fact, some of the other queries which students have asked, let me quickly take them. Akhil is asking, is this exam pattern will be applicable for November? Yes, Akhil, it will be applicable for November. That MCQ of 1 marks will be there from November 2026 onwards. And Manjira is saying, biggest issue is I'm losing marks if I'm writing in plain English with keywords, yet losing marks. Please help, I'm really bad at theory. So for theory questions, as I already told you, we do not expect you to write the answers in the same language as of the law. But yes, Manjira, if you see past few suggested answers, and particularly the questions where you feel you have lost the marks, just have a look at those answers and the answers which you have written in the exam. You will get an idea that where you were actually lacking, because I cannot take any particular case, but yes, all the questions where you feel that you have written it up to the mark and you have not got the marks appropriately. So you should see the suggested answers. You will get an idea how to write the theory questions or straight questions. Generally, question 6 has all the theory questions. So you should see that, you'll get an idea. Abhirami is asking, so due date oriented answers, I think Abhirami now you are clear with. And she's asking how to handle the procedural type of answers in 14 marks question. Generally, Abhirami, you will not find any procedural issue in 14 marks question, but yes, it can require some of the provisions like e-invoice. So if you are taking credit based on any e-invoice and it is not a proper e-invoice which is issued, then ITC will be denied. So small issues can be there, but yes, question 14 is generally based on all the substantive provisions of law. Other like application of rule 86B. So that can be there. Some small procedural issues can be there, but generally it is based on the substantive provisions of law. If in question place of supply, is not ascertainable, then what should be taken? Now, suppose it is not mentioned as a note. As I already told you in this exam, it is mentioned that wherever the place of supply is not ascertainable, you need to take it as an intrastate supply. But in case nothing of this sort has been mentioned in the 14 marks question, and you are still not able to find out the place of supply from the information given in the question, then what you should do is you can take either inter or intrastate supply, that transaction to be either inter or intrastate supply, and just give an assumption straight away. Clearly mention that assumption in the answer. There can be other instances also which you are not able to identify from the information given in the question. For example, whether the receipts are inclusive of GST or exclusive. If it is not explicitly mentioned in the question and you have to take one of the assumptions, then I always suggest please mention it in your answer, clearly mention that assumption and solve based on either of the assumptions. Both the assumptions will stand on equal footing and you will get due marks if the information is not clear in the question. If something is not ascertainable from the question and you have to answer it or that is required for completing your answer, then please take either of the assumption and answer that question. One is place of supply information is not given, then you can take the transaction to be either inter or intrastate. Clearly state that assumption that since this information is not there in the question, then you can mention that in the assumption. Now, stepwise marking is there in the first question. KB and Mahesh Reddy is asking, will there be stepwise marking if net GST payable in compulsory question is wrong? Yes, Mahesh, it is there. Stepwise marking is there in every computational question. In fact, it is there in the theory questions also, that if you go wrong in any of these steps, then you will be awarded marks for the steps which you have done correctly. And stepwise marking is there across all the papers, across all the questions. So don't worry about that. For writing the theory questions, you have to write the significant points. Particularly, you should switch to bullet points. You should underline the important, significant keywords which you want to highlight to the examiner, and try to cover most of the points or all the points which are required. Now, suppose in case of the theory questions, it is a 2 marks question, and same question if again it is asked for 5 marks. So the length of the question will vary in both the cases, and moreover the points which you have to write will also vary. So in case of a 2 marks question, if there are 6 points in that particular question, you can write 2 because it's a 2 marks question. But if it is asked for a 5 marks, then you should write 5 points, or all the 5 points you should explain properly. One question which is asked by one of the students is that suppose a 5 marks question has 5 subparts, then he is not able to ascertain how to write that answer. So in that case, you have to write the provision very precisely, make it as short as possible, because a 1 marks question, if 5 marks question has 5 subparts, then 1 marks each will be there. So a 1 mark question will have you have to write the provision in short, very briefly you have to write the provision, and you have to write the conclusion, because half marks will be there for both the provision as well as conclusion. Apart from this, some of the earlier queries, let me see if any of the query has been unanswered. Some of the students have this doubt that though they have prepared well in IDT, they feel comfortable when they do the provisions, but when it comes to the examination or attempting the paper, they find it very difficult. You know, student, why this problem occurs? This problem occurs when you have this impression that you have prepared sufficiently for the paper, but actually you have not prepared for the same, or your preparation is not up to the mark actually, because many a time students come to us and I feel that they consider this paper to be somehow easy and they feel that they will be able to do it. Now, this is a misnomer which many of the students have, and then they tend to face it in the examination. So take it equally in an equal serious manner. Do sufficient preparation. Be very thorough in your provisions or your concepts when you are doing the preparation. Be very thorough in the concepts. Try to practice as many questions as possible. So don't feel that you have done the provision and now we'll be able to apply straight away in the examination. No, that will become very difficult, and that is why many students find it very difficult when it comes to examination. Try to see past 2 RTPs. See this latest RTP as well as you can see the past RTP also along with the statutory update, and you will be able to apply the provisions in complex scenarios. Apply or attempt all the case scenario based questions which are given in the case scenario booklet. That will help you in making your concepts more clear and helping you in attempting the same or applying the same in the examination, because practice is more required If you know the concept and you're not able to apply it, what is lacking is the practice. And moreover, you are because your preparation becomes perfect only when you have practiced sufficiently. So you need to practice lot many questions or as many questions as possible till exam for this paper. Then only you will be able to attempt them in the exam conditions. So how to score exemption, how to score 70 marks, or how to study this paper, that I think all those questions have been answered. MCQ questions which are given in case scenario booklet as well as whatever test your knowledge questions are there, they are updated till 30th April 2025, up to which your study material is updated. MCQ booklet is updated after that with the Finance Act also. How to revise in 1.5 days, that also I have already covered. Then the presentation we have covered. If you feel that the let us recapitulate section in the study material, that is not updated, that could be because of the Finance Act amendments which were not applicable till the release of the study material. So for that, you can see the Saransh booklet. Otherwise, all the other amendments have been updated in the let us recapitulate section. I think, Muskan, now your query is answered because you have specifically answered that when it comes to applying the provision in exam, it becomes difficult. And writing the sections or quoting the sections has already been answered. Okay. So I hope with this, most of your doubts or all of your doubts, I think, have been answered. I have answered because many of the students have common doubts, so they have been commonly answered. As well as during the session, I have tried to take the queries of all the students. Baggage rules 2026 are applicable. Please refer statutory update. This time it's all the more important because not many amendments are there in customs also. And please do not by any chance leave them. And before I wind up the session, I want to tell you that the same fortnight session for paper 6 integrated business solutions will be held on Monday. So please do watch that also because many students have doubts or they are scared. Many students are in fact scared of the integrated business solutions paper. So you will get very useful tips which will be helpful for you in attempting the examination because it's a different examination. It's an open book examination. It has a duration of 4 hours. So this is not like other core papers. So for that, you should refer or you should definitely watch the session which will be there on 31st of August on Monday. At the same time, this session will be there. And I request the students to please fill the feedback form also for this session as well as for all other fortnight sessions so that we can know your what you have actually liked in this session or what suggestions are there for improving this session further. So do share the feedback with us. With this, we come to an end of the session. One more thing I forgot to share. One very important point here is because this query I'm receiving time and again. When you see the statutory update for November 26 examination, some of the students have this doubt that one amendment of Finance Act 26, not 25, Finance Act 26, it became effective on 30th March 2026, which is within our cutoff date of 30th April 2026. But when I discuss the applicable provisions for or applicable position of law for November 2026 examination, I told you that amendments made or the position of law law as amended by Finance Act 25 as well as notifications and circulars issued till 30th April will be applicable. So Finance Act 25 amendments are 2025 are applicable for May 26 and November 26 examination. All the amendments made by FA to 2026 will be applicable for May 27 and November 27 examination. They will not be applicable for November 26. As a practice, this is being followed for past so many years and we never make these amendments applicable for November 26 examination. So all the students should be very clear that the amendment in section 13, subsection 8B of IGST Act 2017 is not applicable for November 26 examination, although it has become effective within the cutoff date, but FA 26 amendments will not be applicable for November 26 examination. Any of the amendments, which if any other amendment also you find which is applicable, which has become effective till 30th April, that is not applicable for November 26 examination. So please be very clear with that. whatever position has been discussed in the study material for this particular section will be applicable. That is, the place of supply will be place of supply of the supplier of services. That provision will be applicable for November 26 examination. This section will become applicable, amended section will become applicable from May 27 examination onwards. May 27 and November 27 examination, this will be applicable. So with this, we come to an end of the session, and I thank the students for the patient listening, and thanks Vishal sir for discussing the significant provisions of the significant amendments of the which are applicable for November 26 examination. Thank you, students, and thank you, sir.
Recording stopped.